everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Teen Wolf Season 5 episode 19. And this episode is called The Beast of Beacon Hills. It's the second to the last episode of the season, so the grand finale of this season is coming up next week. Everything looks pretty crazy. Everything's unfolding now, and we're seeing so much happening that it's hard to take it all in. You gotta kind of watch this episode a few times over, rewind, and really absorb what's going on. There's a lot of different story arcs that are happening, a lot of different plots that are falling into place, and everything's really good right now, really intense. Overall, I really like this episode. I think it's probably one of the best episodes of the season so far. But this second half season, I think, has just been amazing. I have nothing bad to say about this half season. I think that overall it's just really great. I'm thinking about at the end of this season doing maybe a whole season recap, because I kind of jumped in 5B and I didn't have 5A videos going on. So I'm thinking about maybe at the very end, like in a couple weeks from now, doing like a full season review and maybe just see what happens then, if what's going on there. Maybe do a couple Teen Wolf videos throughout the break, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully I'll do some stuff. I'll do something. I'll give you something out there. So to start out in this episode, it starts with Mason and Corey, and they're asleep, and of course everything, I believe, somehow leads back to the tunnels in this season. So you might hear that little bark and a little noise right there. Babysitting a puppy right now. A really cute puppy. It's a little teacup chihuahua, in case you're wondering. Anyway, back to Teen Wolf. That's what we're here for. The wolves, not the pups. The wolves. So it starts out, as I said, Corey and Mason are asleep in the tunnels. This, I believe, is that's after Corey helped Mason make his escape. So I'm assuming maybe it's like in the night, or like in the middle of the night, early morning. They don't exactly tell you what time it is, so you're just kind of left to guess that part. So they're asleep in the tunnels. Mason wakes up, and Corey, and Mason has no idea what's going on. He's really freaked out. And Corey starts explaining to him that maybe he might be the Beast. And Mason, of course, he doesn't want to accept it. He don't want to believe that he's the Beast. So he goes on and he's trying to deny it. But Mason brings up a really interesting point, is that Mason has been able to figure out a couple of key components of what the Beast is doing, where he's at, what he's going to be up to, and he figures that because Mason knows these things, maybe, he is the Beast. Well, as we find out that he is the Beast, this episode, it's just pretty clear that that's who he is. Last episode, we kind of were still left with like a little question, like, I know, maybe not, I don't know. But now it's a fact. Mason is the teen whose body is being hosted by the Beast of Jevudan. So they're trying to talk this out. Maybe Mason's feeling a little reluctant to agree that he's the Beast. But okay, this is where it gets really intense. The Dread Doctors find them. They're in the tunnels. Of course, that's their hangout, is the tunnels. So they get to Mason and Corey, and the Dread Doctors, they're coming at them really crazy. So Mason and Corey make a run for it, and they get out of the tunnels somehow. I mean, we don't need to get too specifics with that, but they manage to get out of the tunnels. And while they're running, Mason, he holds on to Corey to make them invisible again. But the Dread Doctors catch up to them, and while Corey's invisible, they're not having it. It's kind of like Gerard with the Dread Doctors. They think that they had the best of Gerard. He said no. In this episode, Corey thought, oh, I'm going to go make myself invisible and they're not going to be able to see me and I'm going to make a run for it. They had another thing coming, because as they were trying to run off, the Dread Doctors hit Corey while he's invisible. Now remember that he's invisible. They hit him. Of course they're gonna know. Their masks or their helmets, they test the frequencies and they understand the frequencies. So I'm assuming that they're gonna know that where he's at or where he's trying to run to, and especially Mason, because as we know, the Dread Doctors are the one who resurrected the Beast. So I'm assuming that they would know, regardless if they were invisible or not, where they're at. So they knock Corey out and they make off with Mason. And that's where the last we see Mason for a while. And I'll go back to Mason. We'll find out a little later where he was at. What a roller coaster this episode was with Theo. I'll go back and forth between Theo because his character is really prominent in this episode. So this beginning scenes that we see with Theo, he's with Deucalion and his pack and wherever the heck they're at, and they're trying to get Josh, one of the genetic chimeras, the one who has electricity. They're trying to get him to put on the mask that he stole from Dr. Velik's office, and Josh is very reluctant. He don't want to. So Deucalion tells Theo a little bit about somebody that he called the surgeon, who was the person who made the masks that the Dread Doctors use and that Dr. Velik had. And apparently this surgeon was able to harness what he referred to was electromagnetism. So that's how they can find like the frequencies and just different stuff. So like I'm assuming that's how they find like the frequencies. Maybe that's not the frequencies themselves. I'm not exactly sure how it works. But that's what Deucalion said that the surgeon was able to do. He also said that through this mask he was able to use the Chimera's powers, or whoever would wear the mask. So that was a really interesting part. Of course, you know, Josh at this point, even though he's hearing all this stuff, he's not gonna put the mask on. I totally agree with him, don't put it on. But Theo's getting really pissed off and he's like, you know what, you need to put the mask on, and they're going back and forth. So Deucalion starts talking to Theo, and he pretty much explains to Theo that in order for Theo to get power, he would have to feel pain. So Deucalion goes and, by his method of helping Theo, breaks Theo's arm so that Theo starts feeling the pain and understanding what it is that he's going to have to do and how he has to embrace the pain and be able to use that to get power. So Deucalion tells Theo, you know what you have to do, and Theo's like, yeah, I know. So he pulls out his claws and he kills Josh. No remorse, no sadness on his part. So Deucalion tells him that in order for him to gain power, he'd first have to feel pain. That's the first step. Next, he would have to take lives, and that's the second step, by killing people. And only then will he get the power that he's desiring and that he wants. Now that Theo took the life of Josh, he has some of his power in him in a sort of way. I'm not sure exactly how that happened or how that transition happened. But Theo was now able to himself put the mask on. He does so. And we're left at that, for now, we're left at that scene. And we'll go back to Theo and find out what happened to him with that mask on. So Kira and Stiles and the pack, they somehow managed to get Scott out and they get him to his house. And Kira's trying to help him heal. And Stiles is checking up on him as well. But when he closes the door to Scott's room, Malia and Brayden walk up to him, and it was interesting, kind of lighthearted scene. And Malia tells him that, like, basically she says, you know how the desert wolf is gonna try to kill me? And he's like, yeah. She's like, well, she's gonna try to kill you too. So Stiles proceeds to ask Brayden and Malia if he could have a gun, because it says Chris has a gun and Brayden has a gun and the desert wolf has a gun. Then why can't he have a gun? So Brayden tosses Stiles the gun that he so desperately wanted. Stiles, being Stiles, ends up like dropping the gun and not being able to hold on to it. And then he goes and he says along the lines, what does he say? He says, I probably shouldn't have a gun then, right? So they all look at him like, yeah, I don't think that's a really good idea. Desperation calls for desperate measures, I will say. Scott and Liam go to Theo for help. I know, we need to take a second to absorb what I just said. Scott goes to Theo for help. Yes, he is desperate, but I don't understand, like, Theo is the worst person to actually go to, and here he is, and I don't know. So in order for Theo to help Scott, he wants to bargain and he's open for discussion. So basically, what Theo wants from Scott is that map that Scott has with the currents or I think it's the currents and how they had everything mapped out to that one specific spot. So that's what Theo wants. He wants that from Scott in order for him to so-called help Scott. We know that Theo really wants to kill Scott to harness Scott's power as an alpha, but also because he promised Deucalion the eyes of Scott McCall. So, of course we know Theo is always up to something. He always has an agenda. So we just have to kind of go with this and just see how it's going to play out. Theo, Scott, and Liam, they discuss what Theo saw and when he put on the mask. And Theo explains to him or them that he's seen what happened to a soldier. He said the name in German, but I don't speak German, so I can't say the actual word that he said. But he translated himself and said it was a soldier, that he was alive during World War II, possibly a Nazi, but that he was an alpha werewolf. He also found out that the Dread Doctors have been using the Beast of Jevudan as a way to prolong their lives. So I don't know how long they've been alive, neither do they, but they've been around for a while, and that's why they're using the Beast of Jevudan as a way to prolong their said lives. Interesting part, I don't see, they didn't exactly elaborate on how, but again, we don't know everything that Theo saw. He doesn't really explain much or tell anybody. He's keeping things to himself for whatever his reasons are, I'm not sure, but he is keeping things to himself. So the whole pack is looking for Mason, and while they're all looking, Malia is talking with Lydia on the phone, saying that she should be helping Styles, trying to save him and protect him, not being trapped inside her house with Brayden with the mountain ash on the doors to keep the desert wolf out, pretty much keeping her in as well. All the while she's saying that Styles is walking into a door. The goofball that he is walks into a door, and Lydia is like, yeah, I think he'll be fine, don't worry about him. So that's really funny. We see while they're talking that the desert wolf is somewhere, I'm not sure where she's at, but she's still looking for Styles and she's going to hunt him down. That's going to be her mode of getting Malia angry or getting her out. While they're all worried and stuff, Sheriff Stalinsky, he's looking at a moon phase on the wall, and he's seeing that it's going to be the full moon, and they're starting to worry because many things are going to happen. The beast is going to probably be at full strength. The pack is just going to be vulnerable, but I think they'll still be strong themselves, but not compared to the beast. And the desert wolf needs a full moon in order to kill Malia so that she can gain her powers back. So everything is riding on that full moon and getting everything taken care of before it happens. So Scott and Liam and Theo are still looking for Mason, and Theo tells them that he's seen some guy in the snow, and he fell through like a spear. So we know from there that he's seen Sebastian Vallee. So he's seen the beast himself. They eventually come upon a little cabin looking thing. It looks kind of like the cabin that was in the last episode that Marie-Jeanne goes in and she finds the cellar with the dead bodies. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it's the same one, but it could be. We don't know. So they go in and they find Mason, and he has that rod and needle still hooked up to him. But this time we see it's like in by his skull. He claims, and he feels it in his skull, and it's like being like tubed through this big old tank, and I think it's a dread doctor or something who's inside that tank, and it's like filled with like green water or something, and it's like being fed by it. And they try to take it out of Mason, but to no avail, because Mason, it hurts him too much, so they don't know how to get it out of him. But at that time, the dread doctors get there, and it's about to go down. So this is the part of the episode where everything just goes completely crazy. Everything just blows up at this point. And we see inside the police station, Lydia and Stiles are still there, and Melissa McCall walks in, and she has a medical file, and she begins to explain this medical term for what Mason is. In a way, he's not exactly a genetic chimera, but he does have 2 sets of DNA. I'm not sure the term, but what they said was that when Mason was still in the womb, he had a twin, but he actually ate the twin in a way. So somehow he ended up with both DNAs, which made him in a sense, a genetic chimera by having 2 sets of DNA. Really, really disturbing, but it was kind of interesting. I'm not exactly sure what the term is. There was actually a term that they said. I'm not exactly sure what it was though. Going back to that cellar with Mason being hooked up and Theo, all the dread doctors, an important part to mention, in this episode, they're able to talk clearly. So we hear them. It's not like they're muffled voices that we've heard in the past episodes. This time we actually hear them speaking clearly. And they're saying to Theo, and I'll read off a list of a couple of things they said. This is a quote. They tell him, "Failure, Theo Rakin," and then they proceed to say, "We learn from you." They also say that they tell him the mark of a true failure is repeating the same mistakes, and that's Theo letting them live, and he just keeps making what they refer to as the same mistakes. They also tell him that Theo was an ordinary evil, that basically what that means was that even though Theo was doing like mean and evil things, it wasn't what they were wanting. It wasn't the evil that they were looking for. And they tell him the way to get something purely evil is to corrupt something that's purely good. That's not exactly like their words, the way I phrased that, but that's basically what they're meaning. And by doing that, they somehow were able to essentially, I guess, corrupt Mason, who was what they would refer to as essentially or purely good. They also say, and I quote, "Transformation is our frequency." And at that moment, we've seen that Mason took out that needle that was inside his head, or in his neck, I guess. At this point, Mason is transforming, and we're seeing like that smoke come like around him, and his body's starting to turn into the beast. And Liam shouts out, he's like, "Mason," and then Mason, or the beast, says, "That's not my name," and he turns full beast. While everything is going on with Theo and the dread doctors and Mason and Scott, we see that Malia and Brayden are still in the house, but only this time, okay, annoying as it is, Tracy moves the mountain ash that is keeping the desert wolf out and Malia in. Of course, being a jerk that Tracy is, scoffs at it, she laughs, okay, and she walks off. I'm just going to throw it out there. Tracy annoys me. I don't like Tracy. If she was one of Theo's pack that had to go, I wouldn't really care. I cared that Josh died in this episode. I didn't really care about Tracy. I think she could just like go now. Anyway, by doing that, we find out that the desert wolf was able to get inside Malia's house. Question that I'm wondering, where on earth is Malia's dad? Why is he nowhere to be found? Isn't this his house too? And he's like never there. No wonder why she always slept that style. She needs somebody to be around. Anyway, back to what I was saying. The desert wolf gets in. But earlier on in the episode, whatever reason, Brayden was eating a bunch of pistachios and she was saving the shells. So we find out that she placed those shells all over on the floor, and the desert wolf didn't know that. And unbeknownst to her, she happened to step on them, giving like a signal or like a sound so that Brayden knew where she was. They go at it. They're these ladies with their guns, they like to fight really intense. So while they're fighting, guns go off, almost shoot Malia. Malia's like ducking in a corner, like she's probably just thinking to herself, like, I better stay out of the way right here. I'm not gonna do that. Brayden somehow manages to get the desert wolf pushed down on the floor, and she runs out. And we see that Brayden aligned the mountain ash again on the doorstep, which means that the desert wolf and Malia are trapped inside the house, and Brayden's on the outside. Brayden, being human, can go back and forth, so it's not a problem for her. But it is, I would say, for Malia, because she can't get out. I don't think Malia's gonna kill her mom, honestly. But I don't know. I still don't know what's gonna happen with this whole scene. So we're left at that with them. So we have to find out, I'm assuming next episode, what's gonna happen. Really intense. Back to Mason. He's now the beast of Beacon Hills. There it is. He's the beast of Beacon Hills. I wouldn't say he's the beast of Jevudan, because now they're in a new era. He's the beast of Beacon Hills, right? So he kills the Dread Doctors. Thank you very much, Mason. Or beast of Beacon Hills. I don't know. He just offs one of their heads and he grabs the other one and he carries it off. But let's not forget, while that's all happening, he managed to push Theo, and Theo's a little like hurt, but they're okay. He gets out of that little cellar, dungeon, whatever the heck thing that they're in. He gets out and he's carrying one of the Dread Doctors. And while the beast gets outside, the Hellhound arrives. He hits the beast. Chris Argent gets there. He's shooting the beast, taking no prisoners. They're just going off on him. And while I don't know if there's something in the bullet that Chris uses or not, but somehow they managed to get the beast to turn back into human form. Only this time the human form wasn't Mason. It was in fact Sebastian Vallet. And they shout his name, the Bête de Gévaudan. Do you remember my name? And Sebastian looks at Gerard and he tells him Argent, and then he runs off. So we know that Sebastian's back and he's alive or reincarnated, or I don't know what the heck he is. He's back now. And this isn't good, because the body that he turned back in, or the beast turned back into, wasn't Mason. So I think Mason's being lost now. And this is part of what they're saying, that the more the beast remembers, the further that the teen will be lost. And now the beast turns back, and he doesn't turn back in Mason's form, he turns back in Sebastian's. And Scott asks, what was that? And they tell him that you've seen the beast of Gévaudan, now you've seen the man. Wow. So that'll do it for today's video. Hope you liked it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section and I'll get back to you. See you next video. Bye.